Holley, and I am the Elementary Math Academy's TDS Manager. And today we are going to be doing the math at home. But before we get started, let's talk about our focus for today. Our focus for today's learning is going to be on graphing on a coordinate plane. Ooh. And another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you some board games that you can get that will help you with graphing on a coordinate plane. Just some things that I played when I was growing up that was really fun, and I'm sure you'll like them too. But before we begin on doing this learning with graphing on a coordinate plane, and I already see some of you like, we don't have a coordinate grid. No worries. What you can do is let's talk about the materials you can get to help you with today's learning. So, what you need is some paper or your notebook. So if you get your notebook, get another sheet of paper just in case. But if you don't have any paper around, all you have is a notebook, just use your notebook. But you can use this as something to write on. And then make sure you have something to write with. So something to write with could be anything from a pencil, or you can use a pen. Or if you don't have a pencil or a pen, you can grab some markers. And if you have a dry erase board and a dry erase marker, you can use that as well. But I don't know how good that will actually work with today, but if that's all you have, go ahead and grab it. And for those that's grabbing a pencil and pen, or a pencil or a pen, if you have some markers around, grab those as well, because that's going to help us plot our points. If not, don't worry. We always have other ways that we can use to make our markings. So one thing that you need are the two things that you need is those two things. But if you happen, for some reason, have grid paper in your house, grab some grid paper. If you don't have any grid paper, don't worry. You can easily create a grid paper by drawing a hundreds grid on your paper. That's just drawing maybe 11 lines vertically and 11 lines horizontally. You can put it in the center of your paper because you're going to use that as well for your learning today. So go ahead, grab your materials, because you're going to have some fun today with our lesson on graphing on a coordinate plane. So let's get ready to learn. Before we jump into our learning today about graphing on a coordinate plane, let's first do a quick review to see what we remember about a coordinate plane. So first, let's take a look at this coordinate plane behind me. One thing is, first thing I want to do is I want to do a couple of labeling of some points. This is called a coordinate plane. And the one thing about a coordinate plane is that it has some very important parts. So before I begin talking about the parts, I know you notice I have two dots on my coordinate plane. One is a black dot and one is a pink dot, but inside the pink dot, just in case you can't see it, is the letter P, as in pineapple. And so what I want you to do is I want you to think about two questions. Well, it's really a compare and contrast. It's like, see, what do they have alike and what do they have different? But here's the question. How are number lines and a coordinate grid similar, and how are they different? I heard somebody say it. If you look at the coordinate plane, the coordinate grid, you see that they have number lines on the coordinate grid. There's a vertical number line that says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 10, and there's an arrow letting you know that it could keep going. And then there's a horizontal number line that's going from 1 to 10, and the same, it has an arrow letting you know that it can keep going. So that is one thing about the coordinate grid and the number line, is that number lines are located on the coordinate grid. But not only that, it measures distance. Yes, number lines measures distance, so that's a coordinate grid. And so what this is doing, it is measuring the distance for us, finding that specific location of this dot or the letter P. So my question now is, how are they similar? Besides the fact that one has to be on there, how are number lines and grids different? We said they start and go. What do you notice about those two number lines? Yes, so they both start at the same point. And if you notice, I don't have that point labeled. But what do you think that point will be labeled? 0. Yes. So one thing about coordinate grids and number lines is that they both measure the distance from 0. So we know they measure the distance, but where is the distance from? The distance is from 0. The coordinate plane or the coordinate grid starts at 0 and it goes horizontally, and it starts at 0 and goes vertically. But what is it called when we start at 0? Because right now this is 0, but what is that called? It is called the origin. You are correct. This is our origin. Whenever we start at 0, 0, 0 is called the origin. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put these little labels on here so that way we can know that these things actually occur. So that is our origin. Our origin is called 0, 0. So then there's something that we want to be very specific when we talk about our number lines. So we know that there's number lines that create the coordinate grid, but what about those number lines? I hear there's a vertical and there's a horizontal, but they're a little bit more detailed than that. The horizontal number line is called our x-axis. So this is our x-axis. So we want to always keep in mind that whenever we're talking about the x-axis, we're talking about this number, the horizontal number line. And then we have our vertical number line, and instead of calling it the vertical number line, we call it our y-axis. So now we have our y-axis and we have our x-axis. And the next thing is that these points here is called, you guessed it, these are called coordinate point. So this is a coordinate point, and this is also a coordinate point. And the one thing that I want us to do is I want us to make sure that we understand when we talk about coordinate points, how do we write that? How do we write the actual coordinate point on there? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the coordinate point for the black dot and the coordinate point for the pink P, so that way we can have an idea of how do we write coordinate points. So before we start labeling it, I want us to talk about the coordinate point. So I'm going to move this word just a tad bit out of the way, just so that way we can kind of get an idea of what a coordinate point is. So I'm going to put it right here. We know those are coordinate points. But in order to correctly write the coordinate point, we have to make sure we write the numbers using a specific order. So we always start with our x-axis and then we move into our y-axis. So when we write our coordinate point, we always going to write it x, comma, and then y. Okay? So we're going to move on x, then comma, then y. So let's talk about our x-axis. Here's our point. Where does the point fall on the x-axis? So if I go down, my point is on 3 on the x-axis. So that means where I see x, I'm going to put the number 3. But then I want to see where does it fall on the y-axis. So I go back to my point and I go to my y-axis and I see that it is at 3. So when I get ready to write the coordinate points for the black dot, I'm going to put 3 3, comma, 3. Those are going to be my coordinate points for this dot. But then I want to look at this dot. This dot, same method, is we're going to find it at 4 as an X and 4 as a Y. So I am going to put the coordinates for this point as 4, comma, 4. So one thing we can say is that using a coordinate plane, finding the location is that my black dot is located at coordinate point 3, comma, 3, which means that I'm going to start at 0 and I'm going to go to my right on the x-axis to 3, and then I'm going to move vertically up until I get to 3 on my y-axis. So you notice that here we have 3, comma, 3. So if you notice the line that's down here, the numbers are down here, these numbers represent every horizontal line throughout our entire grid. And then these vertical numbers represents every vertical number line throughout the entire grid. So instead of writing these numbers on each point, we are just going to put it on the outside, and that tells us that anywhere along this line vertically, that is an actual 1. And then anywhere on this line vertically is going to be 2. And same here. So if I'm here, then I know that I'm at 1 horizontally and 2 vertically. So now we have all that in our head. We are now ready to do our learning activity. And get ready, because our learning activity is going to be fun. Have you heard of the game Battleship? It's so much like the game Battleship. And if you haven't, after we do this activity, you're going to want to play Battleship, because it's just like that. It's actually locating points on a grid. So let's get ready to dive into our learning. Now that we have completed our review for today, let's jump into our learning activity. So remember I said that you were going to like Battleship when we get done with this, because you're going to learn how to read locations on a map? Well, guess what? We're going to do a coordinate grid today, and we're going to look at it like the distances on a map. So we have a little math story that we want to read, and then we're going to take that math story and jump into our coordinate plane, which we are going to look at as our map. So let's look at our math story. Allison lives at point A. In order to arrive at the mall, she must drive 4 blocks west, 2 blocks south, and then 1 block east. Allison's favorite ice cream shop is 6 blocks south of the mall. What are the coordinates of these 2 locations? So first thing is that we need to find point A. So here's point A on our map. And we notice that Allison lives at, and now if I was going correctly, she lives at 5 and 8. So Allison lives at 5 and 8. And what we want to do is we want to leave the house, and we want to go to the mall. And what did they do? They gave us directions to the mall. But they gave us directions using south, east, and west. So what we need to make sure is that we use our handy dandy compass here to make sure that we're moving in the correct direction. And then it tells us blocks. So one thing about the number line is that each point on the number line is considered a block. So if this is 5 and this is 6, this is like 5.5. So we have to keep that in mind. But if I'm at 5 and then I go to 6, that means I moved 1 block. So let's now go to the mall. And then we're going to label it. So let's see, we're leaving the house, and it says she must drive 4 blocks west. So here I am. If I look at my map, west is going that way, which is to my left, facing it. So I'm going to go, how many? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now that I'm at this imaginary stop sign 4 blocks west, I then need to go 2 blocks south. So now go south, looking at my compass, south means going down. 1, 2. And now that I'm at 2 blocks south, it then tells me to do what? Go 1 block east. So if I look at my compass again, east means go this direction, which is right. I'm going to go 1 block east. And then this is where the mall is. So I'm going to put my lucky pointer here, and I'm going to label it with the M for mall. So now I have it labeled M for mall. And one thing I want to do is I'm going to also label the word mall just for us, because I don't know if you can see my M, but just so that you can know that that is, and I'm going to put it over here, that's our mall. So there's Allison House, and this is the mall. So then I keep reading. Allison's favorite ice cream shop is 6 blocks south of the mall. And so now I want to make sure that I actually go to the correct place. So I'm leaving the mall, and I want to go 6 blocks south. So what direction am I going? If you said down, you are correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I want to go 6 blocks down, and I'm going to label that with an I for ice cream. And just because I'm not sure if you can see my eye on the dot, I also have a little label to let you know that this is the ice cream shop. And so now Allison have now driven from her house to the mall and then to the ice cream shop. Can you see how a map works when using coordinate points? It's all about being able to locate these different things. But now it's time for us to answer our good old question. Are you ready to answer our question? Yes, awesome. So now it's time for us to answer our question. Let's go back to our question. It says, what are these 2 locations? What are the coordinates? What are the coordinates of these 2 locations? So let's first talk about the first location. It's the mall. So we want to talk about the mall, and we want to know what is the location of the mall. We want to talk about the coordinate points. So let's talk about how we get to these coordinate points again. Remember, we talked about it before, and we said we have to start where? I can't hear you. Where? Yes, we have to first start at the x coordinate. So let's talk about that. So I'm going to put here a little blank paper just so that way we can put the actual coordinate points for the mall. So now let's go starting at 0, and we're going to move till we get to the mall, which is 2 and 6. That is correct. So our mall coordinates are 2, 6. And I can just put a good arrow there. That way we know that this is the mall. 2, 6. So now it's time for us to do our ice cream. Put another blank piece of paper here. And what do? Start at the origin and we move. We move 2. What do we do next? I heard someone say it. We didn't move up. We stayed right there. So that means that our y coordinate has to stay with the 0. So our x coordinate, because we did move 2 distances to the right, which is east from 0, but we did not move north. We did not move up. We did not go up. On the vertical axis, we stayed at 0. So our y coordinate is going to be 0. So for our ice cream coordinate, we have 2, comma, 0, which is going to represent our ice cream coordinate. So what are the coordinates of these two locations? We have them here. The mall is 2, comma, 6, and the ice cream is 2, comma, 0. And just to be sure, we already did our Allison's house at the beginning, and we said that she was at 5, comma, 8. I know that was very simple, and I know you're excited and ready to go and go somewhere else and just keep plotting points. And we can do that just to say, hey, let's plot some more points. Let's say that I want to plot the point. Let's say I want to plot the point 6, comma, 4. So if I want to plot the point 6, comma, 4, and I want to move there, I'm going to start at 0 and move to 6, and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, and go to 4. And so now I have 6, comma, 4. I could put an L for, let's say, the library. We can make that L for a library. And then let's say that we want to go to the bank. And typically, or let's say we want to go get a burger. And so we're going to a burger spot. And to get a burger, we're going to label it B, because B for burger. Makes sense, right? And the burger place is not too far from the library. So let's say the burger place is at 4, comma, 2. Well, no, let's say 4, comma, 4. Very much similar to our review we did. So we're going to move 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to move 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty simple. So then that will be our burger spot. And then we can put a B for burger. So now you're ready to do some problems on your own. I know you're excited, I know you're ready, and you can handle these next couple of problems. So get ready to pause the TV, to get ready to take a picture. And one thing I must tell you is that because this was a coordinate grid, and I know I didn't give you a coordinate grid for you to use that was already there, but remember, we used a piece of paper to create our grid by creating number lines to build that grid. So one thing I can tell you is use your picture and use the grid we have here to help you answer some questions. And we're gonna also give you the grid on your problems. So that you definitely need to take a picture of these problems so that way you can zoom in and look at the picture that we give you, because we're gonna give you the grid for your problems to use. So get ready to solve some problems on your own. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, please contact your teacher. Bye. The last practice consists of a coordinate plane with 6 points plotted on the coordinate plane. Your assignment is to find the location for each point listed on the coordinate plane. Once you find the location, on the right, you will write the points ordered pairs. For example, the first ordered pair you will look for is point E. You will locate point E on the coordinate plane. Once you find point E, you will determine its location by finding its ordered pair, which is using the coordinate points of X, Y. You will find all 6 locations as your practice on your own.